First rule of Weevil Club, don't talk about Weevil Club. Welcome to episode 421 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 21st of September 2021 and featuring Torchwood Combat, written by Noel Clark and starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, Bern Gorman as Owen Harper, Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, and Gareth David-Lloyd as Yanto Jones. I am Bill Sylvia, the writer in black, and I'm glad we're finally reaching fall. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Oh, I hate fall. It's either too warm or too cold.
Mad Matt Winchell,
Pumpkin everything!
and Thomas Fireheart.
Yeah, I could see Owen in Fight Club.
All right, so how's everybody's week been?
So.
Like last Thursday at work, I lost a key that I needed for, so that was like, oh fuck, and I was panicking about that, looking for it for like so long that I ended up leaving like a half hour after I was supposed to finish. I just couldn't find that anywhere, so oh well. I mean, thankfully, when I told both of my supervisors, neither of them were like, oh, well, that's coming out of your pay or anything. They were just like, well, we don't have any spares, so you'll just kind of have to wait until we can organize one.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that would usually mean calling a locksmith, and that would usually come out of your pay.
But if they have a spare key, it's just
given
you have to go to like a Troop Value or something, and that has key.
Yeah, if somebody had another key, they can take it to a hardware store and get a key remade. But
I was gonna say, depending on how the key was lost, is whether you need to call a locksmith. Because if it wound up in the hands of somebody who shouldn't have, who potentially wound up in the hands of somebody who shouldn't have it, and it gave access to expensive things, then that's when they have to change all the locks in the building.
Yeah, no, I was talking about if they lost the key to something and nobody had another key, then the only way you're going to get access to that is with a locksmith.
Thankfully, the key that I lost was just the one to get into the trolleys we used, so it's not like, if it had been like pretty much any other key, it would have been like, but.
So basically, it's just an overly pompous bike key.
Essentially, yeah. And because it's such a specific key is why I think they can't even just like go to the key cutters that are in the shopping center I work at and just get one cut from them, because it's just such a specific key that it's probably really fiddly, and they'd have to get one like sent in or some shit. I don't know.
If it's not the standard like shape and thickness and material and all that, then they have trouble with it.
Yeah. But so yeah, that was kind of frustrating as hell. But then yesterday my mood kind of completely flipped around, because on Monday I commissioned my first emote for Twitch. By Tuesday, the artist had already sorted it out to the point of just basically having it done, and had something to show me when I got home from work Tuesday. So I was like, oh, well, thank God for time differences. While I was asleep and at work, they were able to get it done. And yeah, it was like, I'm really fucking happy with it, and have basically been showing it off in people's Twitch streams like a friggin', and like I compare it to showing off that emote like a dad showing off their baby pictures or something. It's just like, hey, look at this cool thing
I have now.
Well, on my front, about the day after our last podcast, the microwave broke here at our house.
Oof.
And I mean, it was the fact that the door broke, so that the door wouldn't latch. so the door kept going open.
Ooh.
And about a
Ugh.
year prior to that, the microwave had started that the turntable would go when the door was open. I'm like, what the hell goes going on here? And of course, now the turntable wouldn't start, and you couldn't actually program time.
Oh, so the whole thing was going, and then
Yep.
it finally shut.
And I'm just like, okay.
Question is, did it go during mealtime?
Yes, I was actually putting burritos in the microwave when it happened.
Ah, that's shit. Were you able to make it in the oven?
Yeah, I was, but they were extra crispy.
I don't
Anyway,
mind
Aaron
crunchy burritos.
express ordered a new microwave. And we came in, and it was this huge box. Aaron hurt her back getting the box into the house, and I damn near killed myself getting it set up. Apparently, the
Jesus.
microwave alone weighed 38 pounds.
Huh.
I swear to God, it has twice the interior space of our old one, and is an 1100 watt microwave.
Mine's stronger by only 100.
I don't care. It certainly beats the 700 watt one that we used to have.
Oh hell yeah! Yeah.
Oh, wow,
When you suddenly up the wattage to over 1,000, you're just like, oh, look at it go!
Yes, I'm sitting here now. It's like I'm looking at. I made burritos again yesterday, and I'm like, okay, I usually have to nuke these for about 6 minutes. I'm going to try 5 now. And I came out at 5 minutes. Oh, wait, I overcooked these. The burritos split on the bottom. The stuff's coming out. Crap, I'm going to have to revise that again.
We'll have to take it down to 4 next time. And see
And,
where it lands.
I threw in some burger patties today, and that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And you can hear this thing. It's just,
Yeah.
It's like the microwave of the gods. I'd open it up, and there's just like a blue light. It's like, jeez.
Oh,
I
hopefully,
expect
well,
my
if you're
food to
seeing
come out
weird
glowing
lights in
green.
there, hopefully you also didn't see a dog shouting Zool.
No. No dog shouting Zool. No eggs cooking on the counters yet.
Yet.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, like I said, I'm expecting my food to come out of this stuff glowing green. Waiting for the government to come in with guys in frickin' rad suits and Geiger counters going, whoa, it's hot in there.
I finally just started trying out a couple of the pasta meals out of where I work, and yeah, I've already had to tweak that on how long they cook by about a full minute altogether. Still turned out good though, so.
Yesterday, Aaron handed me a chocolate marshmallow milkshake.
Okay.
So just one step short of Rocky Road.
Pretty much, although I wouldn't want to try. I don't know if I wouldn't think I'd do a Rocky Road milkshake. I'm just saying. Because isn't that usually nuts?
Yeah.
Was it nuts? I thought it was. Oh, I guess it depends on which version. Yeah, I think the
I'm pretty
nuts
sure
usually one kind or another are in it.
That's the Rocky part, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, hello, Wolfenforest.
Other than that, I've had a pretty uneventful week. Just gaming with my friends, and I played a little bit of the first Destroy All Humans remake, and that barely runs on my system. I mean, my system after 2 hours, my system's like, no, I'm done. Turn it off. I'm done. I tried streaming it over Discord, and they're like, no, we're getting like 3 frames a second. Turn it off.
Yeah, no. Yeah, if it's struggling even without this other things on, it's just like nope.
Yeah, it's usually Rocky Road's usually walnuts and marshmallows.
So speaking of streaming and also work, my my place of work was getting judged sometime this week. I'm not sure when, but essentially other people from other stores were coming in and judging how well we take care of keeping things in good shape and also how well we do at cleaning stuff. Apparently we got a 98.6 out of 100. So we're not doing too bad. We're doing quite good. Matter of fact, apparently this has been a slight tweak up from last year, so we're going a good direction, I guess, on that. But that was a cause of, oh gosh, let's get everything done, which was causing a little bit of panic amongst my other coworkers, but it seems to be over for right now. The only thing bothering my coworkers now is that I believe another one of us is going in possibly for having COVID, and a couple of people seem to be getting the cough/sniffles early for cold season.
Yeah, that's a matter of concern. How's your hot case over there?
How do you mean, how's our hot case?
Well, I've been to the stores you work at other locations, and I know that those hot cases. How's yours?
I'm not sure what you mean. How is yours?
Is it good? Is it not good? Is it?
Do I like the food there?
Yes.
I do enjoy our chicken. Occasionally my family will get the rotisserie chicken.
I know we've got like fried chicken pieces over here. I like them, but they're against my diet.
I will say I'm very niffed that we haven't had wedges in for a couple weeks now.
Delivery issue?
Possibly. There's a possibility of something else too, but I'm not going to say for sure right now until I'm positive. I've been hearing that they might be switching things out.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's not making me happy.
Please tell me we're not losing another wedge source.
We might be.
I wept thoroughly when KFC went from potato wedges to their stupid fries because now there's no reason to order anything but the mashed potatoes and gravy and the freaking mac and cheese.
The cheese-filled breadsticks are really good where I work. And the Tornadoes right now are on $1 sales, so I've been grabbing those up here and there. Trying out a few new ones that I haven't tried before.
I was never overly fond of those. I had a few of them, but they just didn't trip my trigger.
The steak
hi, Wolf and Forest. Hungry yet?
The steak one and the chicken ones are usually my favorites, but the only one I will say I absolutely cannot understand why I don't like it is the pepper jack one.
Oh, yeah, no, I never liked that one either.
I don't know what it is about that, and I usually like pepper jack on like sandwiches and stuff, but that one I just like, nope, done.
It really does kind of feel like at this point we might as well have like a section of the opening banter that is specifically referred to as an Unearthly kitchen.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't help that half my retail is food right now, so I have to spend at least a good half hour or more of my shift dealing with coffee machines.
Is it good coffee?
I can't judge sometimes we sell out of it, so it must be good.
I can't judge this because I don't drink coffee.
The closest I get to is cappuccino, so.
Yeah, coffee physically does not agree with me.
Oh.
I have to dilute it to the fact that it's no longer considered coffee before I can drink it. And usually for me that involves copious amounts of sugar, which are copious amounts of cinnamon, which I will only do around Christmas.
But getting off of regular work a little bit, with streaming, I finally finished streaming for my viewers on there. I finished the Deal in Wonder Labyrinth, which I did a review of because I finished it solo last week. This week I finally finished like I said, the online streaming version of that, so that's done. I put up a list of horror games for people to vote on up until November. And
All right.
the first vote in already is going to be Fear.
I've seen a few streamers advertise that. I haven't watched their streams.
Which one? The D-Lit one?
No, the Fear. I've seen a few streamers
like the
advertise.
original Fear.
Yeah.
I hear the first one's really good. I hear the second one's okay, and the third one apparently jumped the shark.
Mm.
I feel like all I know the third one for is the sort of little short films or a short film or something that they did to promote it.
I don't know anything about that. All I know is that apparently you jumped the shark, and I'd like to know how on earth you jumped the shark from starting off of your first game, where Psychic Cannibal is literally murdering people and stuff. So.
And you jumped the shark from there?
Somehow in 2 more games, yeah.
I mean,
I almost wonder if that's.
What,
I almost
do
wonder
aliens
if that's not
come in?
like.
Maybe.
I do wonder if it's one of those.
Aliens?
I do wonder if it's something where like they didn't necessarily mean jump the shark, but that's the only that was the best phrase they could think of to describe.
Well,
that.
like basically it went completely batshit is what the third one did.
Yeah. I mean, the only memories I have of anything relating to Fear 3 was like some little girl being interviewed and then shit goes haywire. And it's like...
Some little girl thing is involved already from Fear 1, so... again,
I don't know. Maybe
your main villain is a psychic cannibal, so again, I'm sitting here going, this is my main villain that I have to deal with. How do we go sideways from here? I don't know.
Maybe you've repressed it all, Thomas.
That might be it, too.
All right. Anyway, let's... actually, did we hear anything from Bill on what happened this week?
Not yet. So, yeah, so, well, since we don't cover it in Geek Talk, I'll give it a little detail of that here. So, I usually follow the October Day series of novels by Sean and McGuire whenever a new one comes out, which is always around the first week of September of every year. So the new book, When Sorrows Come, came out this year. It's a pretty good book, although I'd say it's relatively on the fluff side. So it's an event the series has been building up to, and that happens. But in other ways, it's filler. It doesn't really progress the various ongoing plots in many ways, and it's not. It's definitely the lightest tone of the series, which I think it might be book 11 at this. No, it's not. It's book 15, I think.
Which is already too big of a series for me. Because I look at that number and I'm like, no, I'm not going to start reading 15 books.
Yeah, when I got into the series, it was on book 5, and I thought that it was late series. But it's just been kept going because, I mean, partially the author loves writing it and it's extremely popular. But there's a minimum of 4 more books coming.
At least they have a set limit.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more she knows what the last 3 books are going to be titled, so she's going to pretty much so until we get to those 3 titles, we know that it's not the last 3 books yet. So that's why I say at least 4 more.
You know, at times you got to wonder how much of that is actually the author likes it, or how much is it the author is actually offered a truckload of money.
Why not both?
Well, no, I'm just saying that, you know, you'll get, oh yes, I'm absolutely loving writing these. I love everything, and then finally, when she's done with the series and done with the contract, oh that was a nightmare. They changed their tune so quickly afterwards.
But yeah, so as usually happens when a book in that series comes out, once I start reading it, I really cannot. I just end up not stopping. So I managed to put it off a day because it came on Tuesday, which is my extremely busy day. But when I started reading it on Wednesday, I ended up not being able to bring myself to put it down until 3 a.m. This was a problem, one, because I'm normally, with the exception of Tuesdays, I'm normally asleep by then because I have some 9 a.m. classes. Compounded with that is the fact that the next morning was one of my 9 a.m. classes, and I had 4 articles I needed to read before 9 a.m. And the last week I had kind of looked like an ass. I wasn't the only one, or I would have felt more bad. But the professor forgot to tag us when he had posted us the previous week, so I ended up only noticing the articles at the last minute and reading half of them. So I was like, okay, I can't not read the articles this week. So I slept from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. I read the 4 articles before 9 a.m. But what that ended up doing was fucking up my what had been an okay, somewhat stable sleep schedule for the rest of the weekend, where all I wanted to do for the next 3 days was sleep. And right now it's at the stage where during the day I'm very tired and want to take naps, and then when I actually lay down to sleep at midnight or 1 a.m., I can't sleep. So I'm considering taking some ZZ Quill if I have the same trouble again tonight. But yeah, so staying up to finish one book can now fuck me up for a week.
Could I interest you in the blow to the head?
Right here at the top of his noggin.
That might not be very conducive to being a good student, just saying.
Oh, it'll be fine.
All right. But mind you, I've had very similar problems recently. There was a night I stayed up and watched half of Neon Genesis Evangelion just because I could. And then the rest of the day, I'm just like, I want to sleep, I want to sleep, I want to sleep. And why did I do that? Because I couldn't sleep that night, and I don't know why. Anyway, on tonight's show, we've got birthdays, or a birthday. We've got actually some news.
What? News?
What's
I
that?
know! I know, I saw it. I'm like, what the hell? We've got some geek talk, our episode review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's start with birthdays. Our one and only birthday is on September 19th, and is the birthday of Caroline John, who played Liz Shaw back in 1970, the companion to John Pertwee during his first season. She would have been 81, but died back in 2012 at the age of 71. Or no, 2012. God, the years just keep flying by, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So you wrote 2002. That was a typo?
I know, yes, it was a typo.
Okay.
If you take the years and reverse it, you find that it was 10 years ago, and for some reason my brain, when I was typing it, said, oh, it's 2012. Bam! So, going back into our news now. Cardiff, people are reporting that the Doctor Who filming team are on the streets of Cardiff filming the Centenary Special, which is for the BBC's 100th anniversary. They are, first of all, spotted at Hodge House, which I believe is downtown Cardiff. One of them spotted a Doctor Who van with actual official materials inside.
Oh, yep.
And they looked into the office that they were filming in, and this is the big news. You can plainly see a unit logo on the floor of the building. So apparently that building is being used as unit headquarters.
Oh, nice. I remember seeing a tweet about like speculating about this special, and I had no idea about when the BBC started, and I was just like, "What do you mean?" I didn't reply openly, thankfully, because I would have looked like a fool. But somebody said centenary special, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh, "You're
Did we just lose a Bill?
Seems like
Bill?
it.
Hello, Bill. This is Planet Earth. Ground control to Major Bill. The rest of you can hear me fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He did cut out once before, sort of like briefly.
Well, this seems to be a little larger cutout, so I'm going to have to keep talking. Because this is not the only location. A couple of days later, filming was seen in Grange Gardens. And this one, John Bishop could be seen. He, of course, is the new companion that we haven't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, John Bishop and Bradley Walsh were hanging out. I guess that means Bradley Walsh is still in the special, too, which is weird because I thought he left.
I thought he was done too.
So either there was just some coincidental filming there, or
now.
There we go.
Are you back, Bill?
Yeah, my whichever Wi-Fi connection I was connected to died, and then I just switched to a better one.
Okay. Oh, are you borrowing someone else's Wi-Fi?
No, it's my building has basically a router at every corner of the building. Normally, I'm connected to the one that's closest to me, and normally that works best. But that one was acting up when I earlier today. So what probably happens is I connected to the one on the opposite corner, which sometimes reaches my room and sometimes doesn't. So
Just suddenly cut off.
yeah, so it's probably one of those moments where it just stopped reaching my room strongly enough to have a signal, and then I switched to the one I normally use, and it's now at full bars.
Okay.
Hmm.
So we didn't catch what you were saying.
So do you remember what the last thing you heard me say was?
It was
Nope.
something about Centenary.
So somebody tweeted speculating about the Centenary special, and I had no idea about this BBC birthday and whatever, or when the BBC started. So I remember looking at that like, what kind of idiot are you? Doctor Who's only 60 years old, not a centenary means 100. And thankfully I didn't tweet that because I would have looked like an ass.
Yes, you would have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, it's the BBC Centenary special, so Auntie Beeb has been around for 100 years next year. But as we were saying, we had moved on to the next article, which was a few days later. They were filming in Grange Gardens, and apparently Bradley Walsh is there. We don't know if it's just coincidental filming or if Graham O'Brien will be in that special. I mean, it is known for specials for companions to come back briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe he was done at the end of the season, but they hired him on just as like a one more episode off thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because he lives in the same city as Yaz, so I would not be shocked if, particularly whatever episode she leaves the TARDIS, if he's in that.
Yeah, is this going to be an entire flip of production? Well, no, this is for the special. I mean, we didn't see Yaz in filming for the second part, so we don't know if Yaz is going to be with the crew by then or not. So it's going to be interesting.
Although it does look like one of the photos does have Yaz talking to the Doctor from the set.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's actually Yaz or not.
Right, it looks like her, but it's a side view from a distance.
I mean, that could have also, with the other amount of people there, that could be a member of the production crew that we don't even see.
Right.
For all we know, yeah.
Could be the director. And they could be just talking over the scene that they're about to film.
Yeah, it is funny because it's like, hey, that's the benefit of not fucking killing off or forcing people off the TARDIS and just letting them leave is, hey, you can actually bring them back periodically
Yes.
if the actors feel like coming back.
So apparently this special will be next autumn. What that means, we don't know.
Just means that they're finishing up a special, at least any public shoots for a special.
Yep. All right. So that takes us down to video news. And the big news there is that Galaxy 4 is the next Doctor Who to get tapped for a animated reconstruction. This is, of course, do we actually know who's doing it?
Did it say?
I mean, I watched the trailer. It looked pretty decent.
Didn't really show us much on the trailer though either. I don't really know much about the story, but they did show us some nice artwork being done with stuff in space and the TARDIS dropping in before a robotic thing comes over to check it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there will be a larger trailer later. I mean, it had some decent looking effects for a reconstruction. So we'll have to see how that does. I want to see how this group does character movement and mouth movement, and we won't see that until the larger trailer.
Yeah.
Because that's usually the last stuff they do.
I still, like, maybe it's just me, but I still find it kind of funny that they do color versions of some of these that have surviving episodes that are only in black and white.
I like it when they give you the option of both.
Yeah.
Right. I suspect it's a huge sales thing. A lot of modern audiences, and I don't know if this is much of a problem at across the pond as it is here, but a lot of modern audiences will not watch something in black and white.
I know they
For
did
sure.
Power of the Daleks. They released one of each, and I think the color version outsold the black and white.
I think mine came with the option to switch between them.
Yeah, I think these days they've just gone to one release where you can just pick.
Yeah.
Rather than
yeah, but you bought the
selling
DVD,
separate
right, Matt?
ones.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I meant for streaming.
Oh.
Like they bought it off of like
a different
Apple
thing.
or wherever.
Like a rent, yeah. Digital rent.
I mean, something tells me the versions on BritBox eventually might just default to the color versions, which is kind of annoying because I prefer, like, again, like, maybe it's just me, but it's like, well, when it originally aired, it was in black and white, and some of these do have surviving episodes which are all black and white, so it feels a bit weird. I mean, like, Shada's animated, like, essentially like finishing it off with animation was like, okay, that makes sense because like, that makes sense only being in color because the Fourth Doctor era was in color. So
yeah, it does make it kind of jarring going from the color animated to a black and white original. It makes me wonder if the next thing we're going to see is another attempt at colorization of the old black and white ones.
I'm not really seeing any names being named for. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm not seeing any names being named for who's actually making the animation. But I do see that Big Finish is getting mentioned a bit in here.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Which is an eyebrow raiser. Something called Big Finish Creative.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they have their own animation studio now.
Is that who animated Shada?
It might have been. It wouldn't surprise me they did. I mean, Big Finish is getting pretty freaking large.
Let me check on my side thing here. Oh, so many years.
I guess it could be that maybe Big Finish was involved with like with any potential, like, God, I don't even know. like audio restoration, audio.
No, the audio was
shit,
pretty
like,
good if I remember it. When we reviewed this, and that was a few seasons ago, it was episode 358. We gave it a 3.75, and I know a lot of the issues that we had with it was that it was all telesnaps.
Oh, so Big Finish Creative was better known as Plant 55 Productions.
Oh, wow, Big Finish bought them?
Apparently.
Wow, that's going to be interesting.
In 2019, Plant 55 was rebranded Big Finish Creative. Both this company and the Big Finish Productions are owned by Jason High-Ellery.
Jason Hay Gallery, so that's
Yeah.
one of the that's a Big Finish producer.
So yeah, that's Plant 55, and they did a couple of them. 10th Plant, Moonbase, Fury from the Deep, and Reign of Terror.
Fury from the
okay.
Deep is a fairly recent one, so.
And if I remember, that was fairly
guess I
decent
just-
too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some high hopes there, and it might be that they now have the exclusive contract for Doctor Who reanimations.
It could be possible.
Anyway, speaking of Big Finish, they have one new release this week, and it is the 11th Doctor Chronicles, Volume 2, with Jacob Dudman doing the voice of the 11th Doctor. So yeah, no actual Doctor, just an impersonator. You know how I feel about those.
Depends on how good they are.
Yeah, on one hand, I wish they would not call those stories full cast. On the other hand, I don't know a better way to say we have the full cast except for the one actor who we've replaced with an impersonator.
Well, it's more of the fact that they're saying that the entire thing is done by more than just one person. Like it's a full cast of people playing different characters.
Yeah, so it's the contrast with like the short trips, which have a narrator and maybe like one other actor who can do a different range of voices, and otherwise it's all one person. But to me, full cast makes it sound like you have the full cast.
No,
and
that
you
would be
don't.
full original cast.
That's a good way to point that. I don't know if they use that term in Big Finish, but that's a good way to think about it.
That's the way I think about it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get like a CD of a musical, they will say like original Broadway cast. And that's their way of telling you, yeah, these are the same people. As opposed to a bunch of idiots. All right. Well, that's all the news we have. Now we're down to Geek Talk. So, Bill, in your attempt to catch up on every DC movie in the past 4 decades, no, 5 decades.
Yeah, I was going to say Superman 1 and 2 are more than 4 decades ago.
Yep, I corrected, I stand. You recently watched Superman 3 against our better judgment. Your thoughts?
Yes. So my first impression was they actually figured out how to do an opening credit sequence for this movie that had something happening in it. So that I thought was a huge step up compared to the long stretch of nothing in the first movie, and even compared to the recap session in the second movie. It's still way too long. And I feel like I can't think of other movies I've seen that have opening credit sequences as long as the Superman movies. I might be mistaken, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
That's because most movies at that point decide to just move them to the end and be done with it.
Star Trek 6's opening credits were fairly long.
I mean, it's older, but Lawrence of Arabia takes like 10 minutes to get started, so...
Well, back then, they didn't have end credits.
Originally.
It was really Star Wars that George Lucas said, "No, fuck that. I want my credits at the end because people are going to want to get to the action." And so that changed the entire way that movies thought about credits and started shoving them on the end.
And of course, this wasn't long after Star Wars, so I guess they still hadn't quite caught up to that way of thinking.
And then, if you think about the 80s, there were always slight credits, but it was usually, no more than like 20, 30 seconds. And it was usually, there was an opening theme song, and the credits would play through the opening theme song. Think of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Right.
Think of Raiders. They were showing action, they were showing the movie, and they just had credits in little sections during the beginning.
Yeah.
Or at least a transition to wherever our main characters are, yeah.
Yep.
And of course, something like Ghostbusters, you don't mind the opening credits because, it's catchy, it's entertaining.
At the same time, then you had the Star Trek movies, which tended to do a long opening credit crawl. But none of them were longer than Star Trek 6's.
Yeah, I have to say, by the late 80s, early 90s, they finally almost completely did away with opening credits and just went to ending credits only.
So also in the realm of first impressions, I believe this is the first movie in the series that has a cold open before the credits. And that movie establishes Richard Pryor as the lead. And I think that impression is true throughout the movie. I do not think Superman is the star of this movie. I think this is a Richard Pryor movie starring sidekick Superman. That's partially the writing style. I've mentioned the comedy, the slapstick of the first two movies. They definitely take the comedy up a notch to the point where it's arguably the main point of this movie, to the point where there's even some reality-breaking moments for the sake of comedy. Yeah, Superman himself is played fairly seriously, fairly straightforward. It almost, in some ways, it kind of feels like there was a battle behind the scenes. One group trying to tell a serious Superman movie, and the other side trying to tell a complete comedy movie, focusing on Richard Pryor, and as if they were butting heads throughout the creative process. I don't know if that's actually true. Superman is primarily his dick is more of the main character than him. It makes a lot of decisions, some of them inspired by Black Kryptonite, some of them not.
Oh, you mean his dickish self?
I mean his penis. He reunites with his high school sweetheart for a bit. Seemingly, I'm curious to see if that carries over into Superman 4, because it seems like they're going for a long-term thing, but you never know with a movie series like this. And I think I would have heard if that's how if the whole Christopher Reeve saga ended was with him with Lana Lang. But
I know. I think at this point, Margot Kidder had basically not elected to return for more movies.
Gotcha.
She was very reluctant to stay on very long for them. That's for sure.
Probably didn't want to get typecast or something to that effect.
I think she was trying to fight that and never really worked out for her, sadly.
But yeah, despite that, the person that Superman actually sleeps with is not Lana, but that has to do with the Black Kryptonite subplot. And I'm calling it Black Kryptonite even though it's not black on screen, because when I looked it up, that seems to be what the comics actually use for the symptoms that you see on screen.
Yeah, but which color was it, by the way?
It
was
green.
green.
They just make all Kryptonite green at this point for any live action.
It was an attempt to recreate real Kryptonite in the movie that failed.
Okay, so it was fake Kryptonite that had a weird reaction. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen this movie in decades. I will start it up. I'll watch it, and then I'll watch the last 10 minutes, and that's about it.
Otherwise, if you look at the more serious side, this movie is a plot about, this movie is basically about over-reliance on technology. It could almost be said to be anti-computers and anti-automation in general. But there's definitely a lot of things about decisions being made entirely by computer. You even have a scene where there's this old sea captain, who's the only person who's smart enough to ignore the instructions from his computer and keep doing his real job. So it definitely seems to be coming out at a time where they're basically like, hey, don't just let your computers make all the decisions for you. Actually have some manual oversight. And they really drive that point home throughout the movie. That said, I'm not entirely sure what point that has with the computer big bad, and I'm not going to spoil that for anyone who hasn't seen it in any more greater detail. That almost feels like it's almost out of left field because it doesn't have much to do with the over-reliance theme, but it does have to do with the technology bad interpretation
Technology
of it.
equals bad, yeah.
It's I don't even know how to rate this in terms of good or bad. It's because it, like I said, it feels like more of a Richard Pryor movie than a Superman movie. So I can't. It's hard to compare it to the other two and say which is better. I think everyone should watch it at least once, just because it's really interesting. It's not.
We might have to hurt you now, Bill.
It's definitely not the worst superhero movie I've ever watched.
What's the worst superhero movie you've watched, Bill?
Yes, inquiring minds want to know.
Probably Blade Trinity.
Okay. We'll allow that.
Yeah, I can't say I think I've avoided that one, or at least saw only 5 minutes of it and went bored now.
But mind you,
or X-Men Origins Wolverine. It might be X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Ooh.
Okay, yeah, those are pretty bad. Mind you, you haven't seen Superman 4 yet, so
you might be changing your mind. Yeah.
I still have to see Superman 4, Supergirl, and Superman 5. So.
Oh, you mean Superman Returns?
Yeah.
Okay, that one won't hit your low score.
Oh, not by a long shot.
But yeah, Superman 4 and Supergirl are pretty far down there.
I probably enjoyed this more than any of the modern era Superman movies, by which I mean Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League. I have not seen the Snyder Cut.
Okay, I will agree with you on that. It still has Christopher Reeves, which makes Superman better.
Yeah.
There's just an air about him when he plays the role that
even in a bad movie where you still respect him trying. Yeah.
He could be in the ugly ass purple Superman suit that they were planning for Nicolas Cage, and you would still buy him as Superman.
I had not seen that because all the interpretations, this is what Nicolas Cage might have looked like, show him in the traditional Christopher Reeve suit. So do I have to look this up?
I've seen it, but I don't remember where I saw it. It could have just been really bad lighting.
You blocked it out? Oh.
But yeah, the suit looked freaking purple, and it was plasticky.
Yeah, it looked plasticky, but it wasn't purple what I saw, at least.
Well, it could have been
maybe
bad
you just
lighting.
had a really bad image of it or something.
Yeah, it could be.
And final note on this, it seems like when they were writing, they were like, well, what if we did Lex Luthor again, but we replaced Otis with a second Miss Tessmacher? And I'm kind of curious whether they actually tried to get Lex again, but the actor wasn't available, or if that was an intentional decision to have someone who's kind of similar, more of the businessman side that post-crisis Lex is associated with.
I think it was a little bit of each. I think Gene Hackman, who I believe was the original Lex Luthor,
for these,
was probably filming something else. And the guys at the same time were like, okay, do we wait for him or do that? And they said, no.
Let's just rewrite the character to somebody else.
If we put Lex Luthor in every movie, they'll start expecting Lex Luthor.
Speaking of people named Gene, I was a little surprised that Gene Wilder was not in this movie since it emphasized Richard Pryor so much, but he was not.
Yeah, well, not every Richard Pryor movie has Gene Wilder in it.
Hmm.
Mind you, it would make all Richard Pryor movies better, but they didn't.
Because yeah, as far as I'm aware, at least what I've seen of the two together, they're great. But yeah,
Well, no, I just think any movie would be better with Gene Wilder in it.
that too. Oh, I hope it has a happy ending. I like happy endings.
Anyway, moving on from that to Final Fantasy.
So yeah, really quickly, I have not shared this with you guys at least directly yet, but I have finally finished my playthrough of Pixel Remake of Final Fantasy 1. The main reason I actually started this off was because in another Discord chat I was told that Chaos was made tougher, partially in part due to the fact that they have also upped his hit points, so he's the strongest, biggest, beefiest version of him to date. I'm also going to share the picture with you guys in the podcast chat as to what it looked like in my final fight. So, ta-da! I barely managed to keep things alive. I actually was on the rebound at this point because I had decided to use some of the items that were only found in these later versions of Final Fantasy 1. In particular, I believe it was Elixir, which allows you to bring back your hit points and your magic. So White Mage was about to do some bring everybody back to life stuff. But just so happens that Fighter got enough punches in that Chaos finally fell. So my general overall feeling on this game, well, by the way, it only took me about 5.5 hours to beat this game now.
You know the plot so well.
It's not even just that, it's just that it kind of, I literally gained like my last 4 or 5 levels just doing Chaos's shrine. and that dinged me over 50. I still think this is a relatively easy version, at least until the Chaos fight. The Chaos fight is actually really good. He was actually a bit of a challenge. I was down to just White Mage at one point and got everybody back up. It does feel like the fighting classes do a little less damage, but then again, I didn't like grind for levels. I barely was like 51, 52 when I finished this for level. I like the visual enhancements they have, that they use like a lot of how do you want to say it? They added like extra layers of details to the maps where you get like overcast stuff. Like when you're in the lava, you get like little lava flakes and heat waves and stuff. When you're in like the marsh cave, there's a whole bunch of fog that kind of slowly rolls over the screen and stuff. Things like that. When you're in like villages, you see little specially made pixel art things that are essentially animating to look like it's pixelated water going through the river areas and stuff like that. Just nice little details like that. I like the fact that they kept the style of the original NES, but did add a little more color to it. I can give or take Fighter having red hair, just because I don't mind the extra bit of detail, because I assume he was actually meant to originally have more color to him, just that NES limited them. And I also like the soundtrack because it's the original soundtrack man back again, and this is him basically doing a better attempt at what he did with the PlayStation 1 version for updating the music. This is apparently what he wanted it to be tweaked to in this particular version.
Okay, nice. Anything else?
Other than that, nothing else to really report in. Good final fight, and I am actually going to give Final Fantasy 2 a try and see how that goes.
Okay. Might want to take a drink, Matt, because I believe we're up to the summary next, and that's you.
That's back to me again. Taking a drink. All right.
All right. Let me just pop the stopwatch, and you ready?
Yep.
All right. in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
So the story basically starts off tonight with Captain Jack running down a weevil. It turns out that he let everybody off for the night, and every time he lets everyone off for a night, something like the weevils comes through the rift, and he has to go chasing and get scraped up. On his attempt to go chase down the weevil, he runs into oh god, why is my brain dropping names?
Gwen?
Gwen, yeah. He bumps into Gwen, who is in the middle of a date with her fiance, but all of a sudden, but she's still spacing out even in the middle of the date, and he's starting to get agitated by it. Jack suddenly rushes in, bleeding and everything, asks for help, and as much as Gwen's boyfriend is getting justifiably upset, she still has to run off and go help to capture this weevil. Just as they catch up to it, a group of other people in a white van literally roll in, drag the weevil away, and then run off. They try to track them and get to a warehouse, only to lose the trail, although they do get a ominous threat via someone, a dead man's cell phone who was left behind, and due to evidence on him, he apparently was killed by weevil as well. So the search starts to begin for this group of secret weevil kidnappers and what exactly they are doing. And to help with this setup, they make Owen go under as like a businessman who's selling, what was it, pickled leech or something?
Jellied eels.
Jellied eels, that's what it was. They at least buy into it enough to try and see what he's all about. And when Owen goes back to a bar where he was earlier in the episode, he is attacked by a jealous boyfriend, and the guy helps him out in the brawl. The guy then offers Owen to come back to his place, and kind of keeps talking to him about how to deal with constant anger, etc., etc. To which Owen, snooping around, finally finds a weevil at the guy's apartment, and the guy decides to, well, basically confront him about, well, I assume you're with the people in that part of the secret group with the vans and everything. So why don't you just come with me instead, and I'll show you what I'm all about and why we're capturing these weevils. It'll just be a you and me thing, because apparently due to how angry he was earlier, he trusts him or something, I don't know. Long story short, he takes him to Weevil Club, where they, one at a time, go and have people fight with a weevil in a cage match. If people are smart, they'll back up before it gets too bad. Otherwise, there are frequent victims of injuries from it, at the very least, if not people who also end up dead from it. Owen kind of just wishes himself to go in there, and while this is all going on, Gwen's having a breakdown because she's trying to confront her boyfriend and trying to admit everything that's been going on, but then can't, and even drugs him to forget, while in the midst of trying to get a I forgive you out of all this, which is a little bit awkward. But as she's sitting around back at Torchwood headquarters, she overhears a phone going off and manages to get the information, which leads her to the building where they're currently having Weevil Club, and sends that over to the Jack and the others. They show up. They're busting in, accidentally does set off the Weevil, which attacks Owen and nearly gets him at least badly injured before they manage to pull him out. The guy who brought Owen in just goes in and gets himself murdered. And that's about it, I think, for this episode. Just like a whole bunch of weird stuff and no real finished thing, other than obviously Weevil Club is now officially done.
All right. So you did that in 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay.
Under 5.
Yeah, under 5. I was wondering for a while, but you did it.
Yeah, you don't have to go too much into Weevil Club. Weevil Club is just, well, it's Weevil Club.
All right. So
There's not as much of it as I had thought, as my memory had told me there was.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I did skip over one minor detail at the end, but we'll cover that.
Yep. Let's talk about what you liked about the episode. And Thomas, you are first.
I guess I like the idea of I guess weird as it is, like I kind of like the idea of Weevil Club because it's like, yeah, I could see some rich assholes doing this if aliens actually existed. Like this sort of thing where they just capture them and use them to
Fight an alien.
fight with. Yeah, it's like I
And
could see
honestly, a
rich
couple of
assholes
rich
doing
people will get what they deserve for it.
that.
All right, Bill.
So I guess I like the whole idea of the little subplot with going undercover. I feel like that was pulled off in an interesting way. Maybe they should have switched to jellied eels for fermented crabs, since apparently that wasn't very convincing. But I thought it was cool how they went through it. The dialogue related to it, and then finding out that he's just like, yeah, I wasn't fooled at all. I thought that that whole bit was entertaining.
I would have gone with popcorn shrimp myself.
Yeah, the thing is, that's common enough that people would go, all right, if this is the popular brand, why aren't I seeing it?
Or you would have a lot of legitimate. You would have companies searching for it and be like, "Oh, this is where I get popcorn shrimp," and you would have like restaurants calling up Torchwood to order shrimp.
Yeah, I would be thinking more something that's more luxury, but something that people would recognize, like shark fins or something.
Calamari.
Calamari's too common.
Yeah.
You want something upper crust, you know. When I'm thinking shark fin, I'm thinking shark fin soup. But something that kind of ritzy, expensive kind of food. Truffles. But even truffles are too common. You know, that's why they did the jellied eel, because they thought it was something believable. The problem was it wasn't believable enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So, Matt, what did you like about this episode?
What I like about this episode, yeah, I like the general like mystery plot of it all. Although I do feel like it got a little. I think maybe about half. I might have seen this episode before, because about halfway into it, I'm suddenly like, I'm starting to see where this is going, and that's where I came up with the thought of, are they doing Weevil Club? I get the feeling they're doing Weevil Club, but I'm not sure yet until we saw the Weevil in the apartment. And I'm like, oh, yep.
Yep, that was me as well. I was like, oh yeah, Weevil Fight Club. That's this episode.
I'm wondering, as somebody who has not seen Fight Club, how direct the comparisons are, or
I've
if
not
it's
seen
just kind
Fight
of some
Club yet
basic
either.
details of it.
Yeah, I only know little bits and pieces of Fight Club, so.
Okay,
I really should see it because I know Meatloaf's in it.
I'm a little surprised because I was really expecting to say, as someone who hasn't seen Fight Club, and to hear everybody boo and throw shit at me.
No, it's just a really popular like footnote that people know like the jokes and the one-liners and stuff from it a little bit, but that's about it.
So if
At
there's
least
like
for this group.
So if there's like Easter eggs, our group would not know about them.
Apparently not offhand. But I could definitely tell they were really trying hard not to say don't talk about Fight Club, or at least some sort of version thereof.
You want to bet how often that was said?
On set when they weren't filming,
between shots.
I mean, it's something I would expect from at least certain members of the Torchwood crew. But there might have been a concern about copyright.
Yeah,
well, like I said, between shots though, you want to bet that joke came up when people were reading this,
right?
Or in the when they were doing the read through at the BBC studio, they were sitting here going, "This is Fight Club," And then people would just keep making the Fight Club references.
Honestly, it's one of those things where if Weevil Club had come up like halfway through that they knew that that's what was going on, then there probably would have been a joke. But they find out about it so late that there's no real time.
And that might have been deliberate so that they couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I liked about it is that they actually kept the Owen plot from last time going on.
Yeah.
It wasn't just he said goodbye and then he's back to just being regular Owen. No, now he's depressed Bastard Owen instead of regular Bastard Owen. It doesn't help me like his character anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't help us to like him as a character anymore, but at least it's actually a continuation that seems to be properly going on.
Yep.
Like, yeah, there is actual lingering consequences rather than just, well, that episode's over. Back to the status quo.
Yep. And, that's good, because usually a Russell T. Davies show will have those kind of effects, and a decent show geared for more adults than teenagers and kids should, too. But, at the same time, it didn't really feel like that was happening in some of the earlier episodes.
Yeah.
So I saw it. I was glad to see it. All right, let's talk about what we didn't like about the episode. And Bill, you are first.
Am I? I was not first before, I don't think.
I'm sorry, Thomas. I was reading wrong.
I
I looked over and I didn't see the yellow above the blue, so
yeah.
I do have everybody's names color coded, and it just didn't show up from where I'm sitting. Sign, I do need new glasses.
Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's like a specific thing that isn't just like a scene. Aside from the obvious of just Owen. Because it's one of those things with Owen that like, okay, this actor's doing good stuff, but I just don't care about this episode ultimately, like for the most part. And it's like, I don't care. I'm waiting for you to die so I can cheer, dude. Like, I don't like, literally the first episode, the first scene you have, you date rape two people. Like, I don't care. Like, go, like, will this character please die so I can be rid of him? And it's like, I mean, it's a start of emo.
He's
Owen.
a big character who stayed on the entire series.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this sort of subplot works a little better for like complicated characters that you still like want to see get through it. Like Black Lightning had a sort of subplot like this. I think I talked about it on podcast. And as I've mentioned a few times, my biggest problem with Black Lightning was that so often I didn't hate the lead, but I couldn't stand him a lot of the times, but I still wanted to see him succeed. So it kind of worked. I don't want to see Owen succeed other than the fact that the
only thing you want to see him succeed at is getting himself killed in a brawl.
I want Torchwood to succeed, but like he clearly doesn't care about that. Like he's the one, so why do I support him?
In other words,
this?
When he's in the cage with the Weevil, you're rooting for the Weevil.
Like it's a slasher movie and it's Jason's time turning up for bat.
God, like it is just so and it's funny because it is realizing, oh, okay, I forgot we got emo Owen right before what he eventually goes through in series 2
which we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
No spoilers until we're actually in that story.
But yeah, there's just, it was still like, Wow, you're really trying very hard to make me feel bad for Owen when I just cannot.
Every time you start to feel bad for Owen in any episode, he then opens his mouth and you're like, oh, never mind. Thanks for correcting me of that idea.
Go die in a fire. Yeah. All right. So now we're to Bill.
So I was trying to think of one that was separate from the scene that I want to talk about later. But the scene is part of this whole same ongoing subplot that I have multiple things that annoy me about. So I'll go with it. The whole subplot with Gwen and Reese. These are the characters
Yeah.
we're supposed to like.
The two of the characters we're supposed to like the most.
Right, like Jack is supposed to have this whole is he too dark thing going on. So there's certain things with him, but Gwen is supposed to be like the heart of the show, and Reese is supposed to be her lovable
Lovable
muggle.
lug.
Yeah, her lovable normal guy that you want to see succeed despite their problems. But in this episode, neither one of them gives me, comes off in any way as somebody that I want to succeed or be happy in any way. Gwen is an ass. Reese is an ass. Like, Gwen at least has some miserable moments where she's like, oh, my life is shit, and a lot of it is my fault. And I'll have more to say about her later. But even like Reese is like, what, the first scene, he's like treating Gwen like his property, like demanding she sit down, as if he was going to fight her there. And I do not root for either of them in this episode.
Yeah.
Honestly, I understand Reese's anger, but he did not need to go quite that far with it. But at the same time, what Gwen did is, oh god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are supposed to be your control subjects, and no, they're.
They've almost completely 180 from what they should be in this episode.
And that's not to say that like likable characters can't fuck up, because they can absolutely fuck up.
Yeah.
Every character I like in Buffy has fucked up. Same was true with a lot of shows. But
this
again,
went into such a dark direction. It's just like, oh, I don't know.
Gwen is like, again, the main character of the show and the character we're supposed to like root for the most. And it seems like she's more involved in fucking up morally than in actually being that character.
Bill, I still smile every time you bring up Buffy. Because I still remember the early days when it was like, you've never seen Buffy? You have to see this show. I'm going to watch a show soon. What do you want to see? You got to see Buffy. Wow, that's a blast from the past.
Yep.
All right.
So that's you, Bill.
That's down to you, Matt.
So it's almost a scene, but what I'm more worried about is the implications, more so than the scene itself. And that's the hint of what I want to dub Owen, King of the Weevils.
Oh, the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The implications of what's going on there make me just go, I don't think I like that direction. This looks like it's going in an even worse way for Owen.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't even know if they...
Did they even follow up on that at all?
Yeah, I don't think they ever did. I think they were planning to, but I think it was going to... Instead, other stuff happened.
Yeah.
Maybe because he was so unlike this season, they decided to change what direction they were going with him next season.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the last two episodes of this series, like, as far as I remember off the top of my head, completely ignore.
Yeah, they completely ignore anything that was going on with him there, because it was basically a big, giant group thing that they were stuck in for the last couple episodes. One way or another. Or focused on other people, at least for the most part. But But yeah, essentially because I didn't really mention it in the quick summary. Basically, at the very end, Owen walks into the case of weevil cells and just kind of half growls and sneers at two of the weevils in the more open cells, and they immediately start whimpering like puppies and back off. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, please don't.
It was almost like he was becoming a weevil in a way, and I was wondering if that was his original plot line. Before Bern Gorman turned in his notice at the beginning of second season. Because he wanted to go to Hollywood and make movies.
Mm.
How'd that
Anybody
work out
remember
for
him from Pacific Rim? Anybody?
Oh, you mean the actor
Vaguely.
before the actor turned in his notice? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
remember him in
Bern
Pacific
Gorman, the
Rim.
actor. Mhm.
He made a much more entertaining scientist in that movie.
Yes, he did.
I remember him in. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a movie. Clearly not a very memorable movie, but a movie that I watched a few years ago. I think before going back to school. So, yeah.
Honestly, the only
I
thing
thought I would remember more of that
That's
if I
super
started talking
descriptive.
about it. Yeah, I thought I would remember more of it
Yeah.
if I started talking about it, but that brought me actually nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I remember him in other than Torchwood is that he was in at least a season of Game of Thrones of one of the Night Watch guys who kind of goes fuck this and takes over that one dude who's banging his daughters' as camp or whatever the fuck. So he's
So that would have been really early
the-
on.
Yeah, he's like a filler villain in like God, what, season 3 or 4 or something, so they can like halt Jon Snow's stuff because they've got nothing for him to do for a while. So he's just an obstacle for Jon to overcome.
Okay. So are we up to me now?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So what I liked least about this. Oh God, where do I start? I mean, you covered the Owen thing. You covered the Gwen and Reese thing. I think you've actually covered most of my beefs with this episode.
It is a
And
fairly simple episode.
it's a fairly simple episode, and those are my big beefs. I mean,
We covered
anything else is a nitpick.
We covered the A plot. We covered the B plot. I don't think there's a C plot.
Yeah, I think I think you caught it all. So I'm going to pass, and we're going to move on to favorite scenes. And that means Thomas, you're up.
I guess just for the acting, like I don't think it hit me as much the first time, but watching it through again, Gwen showing up at the Torchwood base and like everyone's off doing something else.
And she's starting to
and
have a
she's
little
just
mini
like,
meltdown.
Yeah, she's
They're
like
crying over the pizza.
Yeah, she seems fine and she's holding it together, and then they're like the camera sort of pans across, and when it pans through whatever was blocking view, she's already starting to cry, and then she just completely breaks, and it's like, yeah.
I can
I
agree
could
with
see her
that.
like she's putting on a break. She's like putting on an act to like, oh yeah, nothing, like I'll just chill out here while no one's around, and then there's like the full weight of everything that she's done just comes crashing down on her all at once.
I can agree with that. As much as I hate the characters in that plot, the acting is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Before we continue, can I take it back? Because I actually did think of something.
Oh,
Just
Okay.
I thought of it after we
Rewind a
started.
little.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So one of the things I had noted this earlier and I forgot about it that I didn't like is we have Torchwood.
Mm-hmm.
They're a secret organization with tons of alien technology that are supposed to be able to do things bigger, better than everyone than normal, and they're completely stymied by this complete group of rich dicks who caught a weevil in the park and are using it for
Don't even
Fight
know
Club.
what it is.
Don't even know what it is. Don't even have any extra technology. And yet they're able to basically run around Torchwood at every turn.
Yeah.
Either these guys have access to shit we don't know, or Torchwood is just that fucking incompetent.
I mean, the only like pass I would almost give it is that like this is an understaffed Torchwood, and like, you know, there's only a handful of people, this, that, whatever. But even then, with the amount of people that are clearly involved in Weevil Club, it's still like
There's no way
it
nobody
still
would have noticed
seems like-
nothing.
Yeah, and also like instead of
Especially
like
since they're so lax with security, and I don't know if this is going to be somebody's least favorite scene later on, but the fact that that scene with Gwen even happens, they sent a text message to a dead man's phone with their location because they forgot to delete him from the listserv, even though they already knew that somebody was after them and had taken the phone and the body, and had even known enough to call that phone and make threats. So this group isn't hyper competent either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just hit me as like, wait a minute. How is that happening?
Yeah, like honestly, it's the same sort of thing with the security, like the CCTV that gets them. It's like, well, wouldn't they have just fucked with that before they got to the building? Like, you know, have someone come up from the other side or whatever and mess with it, so you couldn't even see the van arriving, like this.
Yeah, it seemed like the capabilities of this group was a stretch.
Yeah. If they made it clear that there was like a lot of techies in that involved or something, then maybe. But it just seems to be a bunch of blokey guys who, you know, wouldn't necessarily know how to do any of this shit. So it's
Well, mind you, the guy that was dead was like a web designer. So that might have been a clue, but it wasn't really enough of one.
And
because the rest of these guys look like a bunch of yahoos.
I don't know about Cardiff. I know if this were set in like California, I would absolutely believe that the people with this kind of expendable income and no responsibilities are mostly douchey tech bros. I don't know. I don't know if that would hold true for Cardiff. Fucking Elon Musk would show up and be like, "When do I get to show a Weevil my new implant or something?"
Jesus. Anyway, we can go back to favorite scenes now. I'm sorry I interrupted Bill.
So I was trying to use that time to think of a scene that wasn't related to what I said I liked about the episode, because I feel like I'm double dipping in both of my favorite scenes, but I couldn't think of anything else. So I'll go with. I think I'm going to go with the scene where. Yeah, I'm going to go with the scene where we go through that sequence of after they hack the computer and he tries to investigate Owen and Tasha's sitting there watching him and answering the phone and everything. I thought that was really well done, and again, it was kind of funny. And, you know, it showed at least how much competence they do have. It was pretty good scene.
Setting up a fake story.
Yep, I could see that.
The Harper Sales. Oh,
Yep.
wrong number.
All right. Matt?
Again, don't care much for the some of the characters involved, but the scene with the Weevil at the apartment.
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
again, giving Owen one of those moments where it seems like he's not a total complete asshole, but of course, as usual, he'll ruin it for himself later.
Yeah.
But another quick shining moment of, and outside of the fact that the character is a piece of shit, the fact that we get some good acting out of him for that scene in particular. After a few moments of beating up a Weevil needlessly, he starts to go, hey, knock it off. Because even some of the other Torchwood members were kind of questioning how far they go with Weevils.
All right. So I think my favorite scene was at the beginning, where Jack is running down the Weevil and has it cornered.
Mm.
Come on, you know how this is going to go. It just felt like a really nice Jack scene.
Of course, that did remind me, a backup that I probably would have had is after they've used the Weevil as bait, and Toshiko is just like, so just so we're clear, you wouldn't do that with a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very like, you're like, we've done some morally fucked shit, so, but like, we would never do that with a human, right? And Jack just doesn't even give an answer.
Well, I don't even think, like, I think it was more just like, listen, we this thing is, it's a living being, and we should afford it the same rights we would a human, and clearly we do not.
Yeah. Now, mind you, my backup scene was come on, Janet, you're going for a walk. You call it Janet? Well, Barbara didn't seem to fit. I got a chuckle out of that one.
My backup would have also been later after Randy's scene, the first time we see a Weevil getting captured. Really quick as Torchwood is chasing it down. Well, the two members of Torchwood were chasing it down. So, like, that is the perfect setup for an interesting story. So, where are we going?
All right. So, least favorite scenes, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be an elephant in the room right away. Is Thomas going to go for the low-hanging fruit?
I'm thinking you're talking about the scene that I have in mind.
Not entirely sure. Let's see.
You know what? I mean, I'd argue there's probably a few low-hanging fruit, but I am going to go with Gwen blabbing, but also giving him the amnesia pill.
That's the one.
That's one of them.
Because it is very much like, while it is like, it pained me to say it even when watching it, but it's like, yeah, she is in that kind of headspace where I could absolutely buy someone in this situation who's got that access to something like that would absolutely use it. This is supposed to be the audience surrogate, so probably not the best character to be doing this. I mean, it's fucked no matter who does it, but it's still just like the fact that she's begging for an accepted apology.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
The issue. Yes, it does.
He's sitting there. He's just like, he's had this bomb. He's had multiple bombs dropped on him. One, that his girlfriend is cheating on him. Two, that she's willing to drug him so that he doesn't remember this conversation. And then she's like, but I need you to forgive me. And it's like, if he wasn't passing out, I think I forgive you is not what he would be saying.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be either.
Yeah, and what actually makes
so fucking desperate for it.
Yeah.
Maybe like, I never want to see you again is more like what he would be saying.
Yeah. What makes it worse?
I think we should see other people. Yeah.
Like what ultimately, at least to me, makes it worse is I'm pretty sure that this is dropped for the rest of the series, because I'm pretty sure the last 2 episodes of series 1 do not bring it up
No,
at all, because
not that I'm
like
aware
there's
of.
completely different shit going on, so we probably don't even see him again until series 2. So it's like, okay, well, why was this even here then? And that's just it. It really seems like as insecure and shit as she could be, Gwen seems like the person who, if she's committed to telling him, that she wouldn't friggin' drug him. So it
Right.
also feels out of character that she would just be like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll face the consequences. If he wants to leave me, fine, that's his choice, sort of a thing. And you could even have them. Honestly, it would have been way more interesting if she had like confronted him about it and told him and been upfront and like about how long it had been going on and whatever and blah. And he just been like, okay, that's it, I'm done. And then maybe they had made up later or something, like sort of a starting over thing. But I mean, ultimately, we only really got 2 proper series, so
And yeah, regarding what you
they
said
probably
about
wouldn't have got to that.
regarding what you said about what comes next, the very next thing is the 2-part finale, which is a lot more focused on time travel shenanigans and other
Yeah.
things that have nothing to do with Reese. And
Yeah.
also, I was checking to see if this episode came before or after. This was after they found out about the episode where Susie was confessing to a guy and retconning him, and that caused him to go on a killing spree. So you'd think she'd be a little more conscientious about her use of retcon at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the idea is she was only going to use it the once, whereas
The
Susie was
reason the
using it
Susie
like a
stuff was
billion times.
going on the way it was because they kept using it and using it and using it.
Yeah, you know it. You know if he had actually like forgiven her anything that made her feel positive, this would have become a weekly thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just
it's the same rabbit hole that Susie fell down. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it is really like yeah, it ultimately does just come down to like it feels really out of character and like Gwen should have known better, and it would have just been a lot better if we'd actually just had the confrontation and not had to try to use the easy way out. But yeah. Like if it was like Tashiko, I could see it working. But
She's a character we barely know.
yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't get her moment until the second season, where you go back to I think a few flashbacks with her. But
yeah.
at this point, she has been basically just a reoccurring secondary character,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taken a backseat to Gwen, even to Ianto, who wasn't even there at the very beginning, and of course Owen and Jack.
Yeah, I think the only characterization she really gets is Greeks bearing gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, we still need to watch season 2 together, but from my memories, I don't think she really gets anything in that either.
I don't think so. No, I don't remember there being any. At least I don't remember there being any Tosh like centric episodes in series 2.
There is one.
I was gonna say there's a little bit of something in season 2, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, there is one and one alone. I mean, Tosh is pretty much the Yaz of Torchwood.
Pretty much.
All right. Does anybody have anything other than that?
Well, that actually went long enough that I came up with a backup, which is related to it, and it's a lot less in the magnitude department, but it's related, and that's Jack being like, "Oh, you promised you would keep your life together, you wouldn't let it come apart." And the reason why that's a least favorite scene is Gwen is the only fucking member of Torchwood who actually has a life outside of Torchwood.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of them, as far as we know, just go out somewhere randomly to boost it up and then go back to their apartments.
Right? Like, Yanto's entire
Yeah.
life is Torchwood. Jack's entire life is Torchwood. Tosh, again, has no characterization. And Owen's life is Torchwood and booze. And that's really about it. And Gwen actually has a life. So how the fuck are you lecturing Gwen about keeping shit together when she's kept it together better than anybody else in Torchwood has, including Susie?
Well, I think that's kind of the point, is how I read it, is like, all of our lives are going to shit. Don't let yours go to shit too, sort of a thing.
Like,
I mean, like, I get where you're coming from, but it
I
is
wish
kind
he
of
had at least
that's
flipped
how
it
I
on
took
him,
it
been
as.
like, I've done a
Yeah,
better
yeah.
job at this than any of you have. Fuck you.
Yeah. It, in a way, it almost seems like what they were trying to go for is like what has happened sometimes on the main show, where like the Doctor will try to be like getting companions to not get too used to being in the TARDIS or something, or like, hey, don't like, don't abandon your friends and family, sort of a thing. Like, those are still good connections to have, sort of stuff. But it falls a bit. I guess, yeah, like, it falls a bit flat when everyone in Torchwood basically got shitty.
Also, it
personal
was
life.
hypocritical in that he's interrupting her date night to help him, and then
Yeah.
he's like, "You said you would keep it together." Like, wait a second, who's interrupting whose date night? She's not coming in on her day off. You came to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're still on least favorite scene right now.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's you.
Yeah, so now it's down to me. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Kind of half of a scene, really. I like the first half of the scene where it's Gwen and the pizza and stuff, but then the later half of that scene with the frickin' phone going off, and it's the answer to everything they need that night.
So that's I
And
knew when I mentioned
you
it
called it
before,
before.
it might have been somebody's least favorite scene.
Yes, you called it earlier that was one of my least favorite scenes. It's like, oh my word, you can't be.
Yeah, it does seem.
For everything else, these people throw a curveball at Torchwood somehow for. They forget the mail list.
They forget to delete the dead guy whose phone they already know Torchwood has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, if the idea was they were baiting them into showing up so they could deal with them, then that'd be fine. But
that they don't even prove that either, and there's no proof that Owen sent the message. So the only assumption is that this is still part of a mailing list because these people are clowns.
Yeah. Which again is another like knock against, like, okay, so how the hell did these assholes
Slip by for
manage
so
to
long,
slip by Torchwood so much? It really does reek of like, well, shit, we've made these guys seemingly too competent. We got to make them fuck up so we can keep the plot moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about it. All right, do I have a least favorite scene that wasn't already covered? I think it's the Owen goes in to purchase a warehouse scene, and not the beginning part, the later part of it. And I don't know if it was implied, but it's, swear to God, it's like, is he hitting on Owen? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, that's what I got. Like, I got vibes of that too, where I was like, okay, so this is definitely trying to. I mean, like, I hear the whole like, stuff about like theories and whatever about all like what Fight Club is technically about or whatever, and it's like I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, they're gonna fuck because this really seems like they're gonna fuck. And I'm pretty sure we've seen like we've definitely seen that Owen's into that, so it could have happened.
Yeah, it's kind of like, is this what's going on here?
The actor was too charismatic.
Yeah.
He turned on the charm when he wasn't supposed to.
Or again, he knew that he was in a Fight Club ripoff, so he was like, "Well, I guess I've got to be Brad Pitt then."
I don't know. It just it did kind of get that vibe of ooh, yeah. And then it's like, then he goes, and you've got these two gorgeous birds. It's like, okay, so you want to fuck one of them? I can arrange that. I'm like, at this point, I'm just like, no, okay, not buying it. So yeah, that's why that scene bothered me.
So I'm a little surprised nobody mentioned the scene of Owen actually going into the cage. After all this hype up of Owen's anger, and he it's an outlet for people's anger. And Owen as like kicking everybody's ass, and then he steps in there, and he immediately, within like blink and you miss it, microseconds, he's on the ground bleeding, inches from death.
I mean, to be fair, they make it clear that he basically was committing suicide
After the fact.
Yeah. And even like the guy acknowledges, like, wow, shit, he went in with like no fear at all, like, goddamn. And I mean, I feel like my issue with that is like, okay, so he gets one woman that makes him not be an emotionless robot and go, oh wow, so this is what love is. And like that woman fucks off and he immediately goes to like suicidally depressed. I don't know. Maybe for me that seems like a bit of a stretch. I could see him becoming cold and distant, but
He was
like
already cold and distant.
Yeah, like well, like even more so. Like him like staying the fuck away from the Torchwood crew after that, like, okay, that fits, but apparently this got to the point where he was ready to let this Weevil maul him to death. Like, that seems a bit much.
I will say in response to that the more shows like this I watch, the more I'm convinced that 90% of the problems in sci-fi universes could be solved by having a therapist who, they can actually talk about alien shit with.
Not to mention some really good drugs. I mean, Owen, I think, really needs some Prozac. Seriously.
I mean, and Owen should have access to alien drugs. Like his bender should not be 12 hours in the pub. His bender should be fucking legendary. Like he has access. Like he could have been fucking Rick Sanchez at the start of this episode.
I'm sorry, that mental image is just great. That's going to sit with me for a while.
Okay, wubble up a dub it up.
I'm just sorry. The mental image. You did it. You fucked up everything, Jack. Now we're gonna have to rewrite the universe. It's just fucking great. Oh, that's so wrong. Okay. Final thoughts, people.
Final thoughts while the hamster in Randy's head dies.
God, I have to get a new hamster. To the reserve cages.
Gotta eat it off the wheel.
God damn it, Harvey.
But yeah, yeah, it's funny. This episode, I mean, I watched it twice for this, and I've watched it at least once before, but it shows how unmemorable it is, at least as far as when I first watched it. Because some of this was sort of clicking, or at least the aspect of like people kidnapping weevils and like
Mm-hmm.
beating the shit out of them and shit. But like when it like got to like the last 20 minutes or something, I'm like, well, this has completely gone from my memory. To the point that I had no idea what was gonna happen when Owen entered the cage. And then was like almost was like, oh, so wait, is this when he dies? Oh, okay, no. um and then like
Wrong season.
God, just it's I mean, like on my like when I rewatched it this morning before we started, I was like, okay, at least from the rewatch before I went to bed and then this, it's stuck. But I mean, there was probably like little bits that I missed the first time that I picked up on better. But yeah, it's like honestly, while I do like that there's some continuity between this and the episode that came before it, even though the episode that came before it did really feel like filler. Um it it is ultimately like you could kind of, especially considering like the next two episodes basically have nothing to do with this, that you could basically skip this and you wouldn't really miss anything aside from just the fact that I guess Owen is suicidal now. Um but yeah, it's just like, again, the biggest downfall is that they're trying to make Owen sympathetic, and they've tried that several times by now, I feel. And it's just like, I don't care. You're trying to make me care about a character that I am not physically capable of giving a shit about. Like,
Last 3 to 4 episodes of a series is not the time to try and make us care about
yeah.
characters.
Yeah. Like, again, this is one of those things where, like, if there was less emphasis on Owen and we got some more, like, stuff with Tosh, that would have been nice. I mean, I'm not saying transpose this plot onto Tosh, although that would be funny. Um, Tosh getting into Fight Club, but, um,
It'd be interesting.
but yeah, like, it's one of those things where it's like the acting is great, but when I don't give a shit about the character, there's only so far that that it can go. But yeah, I would, I would say if people were gonna watch this, only watch it if you're gonna do it. You're trying to do a completionist run of Torchwood. Otherwise, I'd say skip it.
Think that leads to
Okay.
me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my head, I had remembered this episode as this is the one where Owen is supposed to help break up a fight club, and instead he joins the fight club to let out his frustration behind Torchwood's back, and is eventually caught. And that's not at all what actually happens in the episode. I don't know if my head wrote a more satisfying episode than we actually got, or what happened there. But yeah, instead, this episode is mainly Owen working through some shit, Gwen getting mired deeply in shit. I can't even say Owen's working through some shit because he doesn't really come to a revelation at the end. He just tries to kill himself and fails.
And becomes even more angry.
It's been a little while since we watched End of Days, and by a little while, I mean I think it's been years. But if I'm thinking that the pitch for this episode was put Torchwood in the members of Torchwood in the shittiest place emotionally possible, so that they can be open to Billis Manger's manipulation in End of Days. And we're gonna see, if I'm right, we're gonna see some of that. I think at the end of next week's episode. which I remember a little bit about, but not enough to accidentally spoil anything. So, but I think it's related. I think you need more of a story than fuck the characters so hard that they fuck Jack over. And yeah, I don't think it makes the overall series of Torchwood any better because it's just, now we don't like any of the characters and we don't, other than not wanting the world to end, we don't really want to root for them. And I think, yeah, that's about everything I had to say.
So
All
over
right,
to
Matt.
me. All right.
Yep.
So the central plot of this episode, which is Weevil Club, that's actually a really good idea. I like where they were going with that headcanon. The major problem of getting there, though, is that they also are intertwining all these other side stories going on in the series, and these side stories at this particular point really suck. Either they are poorly written and go against what the characters should be doing or what they are usually about, or it's again them trying to save a character that no one cares for at the moment because they've just been a complete and total a-hole for so long that no one cares. And that kind of basically undermines a lot of this episode, even though there's, again, good stuff with the ideas with Weevil Club. If they were to rewrite this, like, maybe next season, I can see this becoming very easily a higher rating, but where it is where it is.
All right, you done, Matt?
Yep.
Okay, so this episode, I do agree with Matt, had an interesting concept. It's a concept that, if it had enough time and energy put into it, could have been a very decent episode. However, it had two things going against it. The first one, it's that the writer wasn't exactly a writer at the time, just a former Doctor Who actor who they had the idea of having writing it as a novelty. Number two, that it was so mired in closing plot threads developed throughout the season that it didn't have enough time to actually divert to its main story. So therefore, we got kind of a half-baked muddle that didn't fully deliver what was promised. The acting is fine.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some people act wonderfully in this. The problem is that it's basically acting a bunch of resolutions to storylines we stopped caring about ages ago. If you remember, Gwen and Owen started sleeping together way back in episode 6. So this little affair has been going on for 15 episodes now. And it's only been going on that long because they kept procrastinating on resolving the plot arc.
Mm-hmm. That particular side plot arc.
Yes. Really, honest to God, this should have been done with and gone by episode 8, episode 10 at the max. Instead, they've let it drag on for ages. And we don't, it doesn't have what's actually what we've come here to see. And so they have to resolve it before the big finale.
Mm-hmm.
And that really detracts from this episode because it becomes all about that and not enough about the main thing. Special effects are fine. Directing seems okay. It's really just that Achilles heel, but that basically kills the episode dead.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's rate this puppy and put it to bed. So, I believe Thomas was first.
Yep.
God. The acting can only do so much,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm wondering how far it'll drop. You know what? It's that, like, ultimately I can just say that people should skip it. That I don't want to be too mean, but I feel like I have to give it lower than a 3, so I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Oof.
Okay.
So
Like-
my thought is that with the acting and directing as good as they are, I can't give it below a 2.5, but with the writing the way it is, I can't give it above a 2.5. So
So therefore,
2.5 it is.
all right, Matt.
Wow, I seem to be the high B. I was basically going, this is maybe just barely above average due to all the acting, and they obviously cut a few corners so they didn't have to go too much into the special effects, and the costumes are all ones that they basically had for the show to begin with. So yeah, it's like a 3.5 for me.
5, and I'm going to split that difference because my opinion on this episode is basically it happened. It happened. I'm going to forget about it. I had neither positive nor negatives, and I still really don't. By the time everything's done, it just kind of evens out into this bland mush of an episode. So I'm going to give it a 3. And that actually makes me correct.
Mediocre.
It comes out to an average of 2.88, which on our rankings would average out to a 3. That,
Combat is mediocre.
however, would put it at number 348 out of 404 things reviewed.
Still a basement dweller.
Pretty much. It is on par with nothing.
It seems like it's on par with it. Well, at least, you know.
I believe we're trying to
Torchwood, but
compare
it's
it
at
to other
least-
Torchwood.
It is
Yeah.
better than Torchwood Greeks bearing gifts.
Well, at least it's got that going for itself.
And is not as good as Sarah Jane Adventure's Secret of the Stars. Those are the two spin-offs closest to it. And everything else is way the hell away. So
Either way lower or way heck higher.
once again, 3 out of 48 out of 404 things reviewed.
Ooh.
That is all we have to say about Torchwood Combat,
Okay.
thankfully.
So those listening, please let us know what you have to say about combat. Do you agree with us? Do you agree with Matt? Do you agree with me and Thomas? Or do you think we didn't go extreme enough in one way or another? Or are you dead set in the middle with Ran? Don't forget to like the video if you feel that way, and subscribe and ring the bell to get our YouTube exports every Monday, or follow us on Twitch to see our streams every Tuesday night.
All right. Next time, we're finally there. The last episode of the first series of Torchwood that we've yet to do. We're finally at Torchwood, Captain Jack Harkness. Written by Catherine Tregenna and starring John Barrowman as Captain Jack Harkness, Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper, Bern Gorman as Owen Harper, Naoko Mori as Toshiko Sato, and Gareth David-Lloyd as Ianto Jones. We will see you next week.
No continuation for the great Weevil King.